Welcome to Lower Makefield Township Board of Supervisors. Our meeting is starting a few minutes early tonight. We have an interview for Board of Commission. Mr. Ron Schmidt is here to interview for the Ad Hoc Property Committee. With that being said, I will turn the questions over to Dr. Weiss. If you have any questions for Mr. Schmidt.
Hey, Ron, I have no questions to ask Ron. I can just say that we are well aware of his qualifications and his expertise, especially with his association with Pennsbury Manor. He would make an excellent addition to the Ad Hoc Property Committee, and if the board so agrees, he'd be an excellent member and an excellent addition to the committee. And
thank you, Fred, for those kind comments. Thank you.
That's
Thank
all right.
you, Dr.
I'll
Weiss.
accept my check later.
Suzanne, do you have any questions for Mr. Schmidt?
I don't. I would just, sorry, Fred, I'm still sick. So I would just echo what Supervisor Weiss just said. And since we are both fellow St. Francis Prep alumni, I know you will do a fantastic
Go
job.
Terriers, go Terriers.
4 years forever. So welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Blundy. Mr. Lewis?
Sure. First, thank you, Ron, for applying. Second, I think the board will definitely benefit from your experience in historic preservation. You work on Pennsbury Manor. How long have you been on the board?
I looked today in preparation for this meeting at my resume, and I've been chairman of the board since 2009.
Wow.
It's been a long time. I've enjoyed it, though. You know, our responsibility is both fiduciary and governance. And one of the things I'm really proud of is that we got through COVID. We got some grants from the outside, some EITC money. We kept our staff the entire time, John. And the one thing I charged them with, because I learned this from some of the other museums, was don't go dark. And the staff did an extraordinary job of not going dark, and we came back. We had 50 schools come this year. We're going to have more next year. And we had a lot of people come through the doors. So we're back. And I think we did a really good job of managing through some tough times.
Yeah, no, I think, and so part of your role, you deal with state agencies.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then filing grants, obviously.
Yep.
And so just general historic preservation. So wanted to get that out for those who are wondering. And at this point, I will also make a commercial on behalf of Pennsbury Manor and suggest if you haven't planned your summer yet, make sure the Brews and Bites is on that. It's probably one of the best events that you're going to have in the Lower Bucks area. And I'll tell you that because I compare it against, you know, obviously there's all kinds of events that we have in the community with different levels of catering. This is a fine event where you're on the waterfront and you're experiencing fine beer. But more importantly, get a chance to tour the grounds and learn more about the mission at Pennsbury Manor. And then if you can't do that, or there's always the Holly Nights. I missed it this year, December 1st and 2nd. It's usually the first week of December. You don't want to miss that either. There's a lot to learn about what's happening or what happened at Pennsbury Manor. It's part of our history. And for us to have somebody of Ron's caliber is certainly a win. Joins a really good group of folks on the Ad Hoc Property Committee. So I support your candidacy and full disclosure. I've known Ron for 13 years, 14 years. Yeah. So we're friends. So if that causes a problem, so if we get the full disclosure out there.
I would say on the Pennsbury Manor side that if you all ever wanted to come out as a board, we would be delighted to host you out there, the site administrator, myself, and others. You could hold your meeting there. We could take you on a tour, obviously, and talk about William Penn and Hannah Penn and all that history that we could impart. So that's an open invitation.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the last time all of our living governors were in one location at one time was at Pennsbury Manor, which was an amazing event. You got everybody there. I think basically going back to Thornburg, who was living, and it was a wonderful day in terms of what they could teach history wise. So it's amazing what's being done there to keep the spirit of William Penn and Hannah Penn, probably our first female governor, depending on your perspective, alive. So, but enough commercials.
Thank you. Supervisor Grenier?
Sure. Well, we know if you need anyone to do voiceovers for commercials, where to go, because you're pretty good at it. No, I'll just echo whatever. I think your particular background is very unique and uniquely qualified to add a lot of expertise to the ad hoc committee, not just historic preservation, but your affiliation with Pennsbury Manor, and it's obviously much more than just an affiliation. But also your corporate background, which is something I think we need on the ad hoc property committee, because we do have to manage these facilities at some point, and it pays to have someone with a corporate background that thinks in terms of dollars and cents included in there. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. If you have anything else you wanted to say about your thoughts about moving forward, that's
No,
fine.
But I would say, to your point, what I hope to add value on is a lot of my time in the corporate world, where we were small staffed internally, but we had a lot of outside agencies. And it's not the easiest thing to manage outside agencies and bring them in on target and on budget. In fact, I was listening today to one of the meetings of the ad hoc committee, and they now have 2 proposals that are in. But the proposals, there's one at this level, one at this level, one at this time, one at that time. And Fred was on the call, and all of that is going to need to be managed. And you have some extraordinary people on that ad hoc committee, and particularly with Dennis's leadership. But if I can add more value to that, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, it sounds like the board's kind of 50-50 on you. So with that being said, we'll let you know. We'll be in touch. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for being
Good
out.
to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks
It's
for
good
your
seeing you as
support.
well.
Thank you for your support.
Thanks.
Good night,
If you
Ron.
wouldn't
I'm going to
mind,
stick around for a while if that's.
if you wouldn't mind just opening those doors and saying that we're going live. Thanks. You can take us down and then bring us back up. Good evening and welcome to the December 21st, 2022 Lower Makefield Township Board of Supervisors meeting. I am your chair, James McCartney. I ask that we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the
United States of America
and to
and to the republic which
stands
stands
one
one
nation
nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We will do a roll call. Supervisor Weiss,
Here,
Supervisor Blondie,
Here,
Supervisor Grenier,
Here.
Supervisor Lewis.
Present.
Excellent. All five supervisors are in attendance. Just a reminder, public comment on agenda items will be taken as each item is discussed. I do, however, see a rather large population of people in the room. So if you can by hand, raise your hand if you're here from Maplevale. Maplevale, yes. Okay, so I'm probably going to do this twofold unless you want to stay for the entire meeting. I will move you guys up for public comment on that. You're welcome. Okay. Community announcements. Reminder during this portion of the agenda, residents and youth organizations may call in to make a special announcement or contact the township at admin@lmt.org to request a special announcement be added to the agenda. Cub Scout Pack 95 will be collecting broken string Christmas lights from December 1st, 2022 to January 10th, 2023. Drop off is at Big Oak Sitco, 812 Big Oak Road, Yardley, PA 19067. For more information, contact Joni Layden at joniesl20@gmail.com. The styrofoam recycling event will be held at the Township Building, 1100 Edgewood Road, Yardley, PA on Saturday, January 14th, 2022 from 10 a.m. to noon. Bring your styrofoam, wine corks, amber white plastic pill containers, and alkaline household batteries. Any other community announcements by any supervisors? Excellent. Thank you. Agenda item number 5, consider approval of minutes for December 2nd, 2022. Do I hear a motion made by Supervisor Grenier,
Second.
seconded by Supervisor Weiss? Any discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Opposed, none. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to agenda item number 6, treasurer's report. Supervisor Blondie.
I make a motion to consider approval of the November 2022 interfund transfers in the amount of $1,019,003.06.
I'll second.
Motion made by Supervisor Blondie, seconded by Supervisor Weiss. Any discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And
Make
6B,
a-
please.
Thank you. Make a motion to consider approval of the warrants list from November 21st, December 5th, and December 21st of 2022 in the amount of $2,340,816.15.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Blondie, seconded by Supervisor Weiss. Any discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Before we get into the engineer's report, I will now open it up for public comment regarding Maplevale. If you're here to speak on Maplevale, please come up to the microphone, say your name and address for the record, and any comment or questions that you have regarding the project. If you could try to keep your comments to under 2 minutes, we'd appreciate it.
And James, for those at home, you're still going to have the normal public comment later.
Correct. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes, general public comment will also be at the end of the meeting. This is just to expedite some of the people that are in the room. So if you have anything about or about Maplevale, now's the time to come up and say something. Sure. Yep. Sure. But we just need your name and address for the record. Thanks.
My name is Dave Rischel. I live at 220 Meadow Drive. And I actually was going to speak to item, I think, J on the engineer's report.
Item J on the engineer's report.
Is that item?
I don't have an item J.
Yeah, J7.
Item F is
Item
what
F,
it is.
thank
The resolution 22-27 to authorize matching funds. That's the one for the
Yeah.
Maplevale project.
I had sent something to you folks on the 19th with some questions about that portion of the project. So do you want me to talk then?
It's in this part of the program, so let's talk about it now.
All right,
Why not?
great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you.
So I, excuse me, sent a letter on the 19th, a couple of different questions. Spoken to the engineer, and I know that they received it and they're taking a look at it. Don't expect really any answers tonight, but I just wanted to raise really one big question for you folks to consider about the item that you're considering money for tonight, which is to continue the installation of the new drains at the end of Maplevale hits Taylorsville. The drainage for those drains goes back into the preserved nature area, wetlands type area. And I think a concern that I and some of the other people have is that when you look at where the water is draining out, it's draining out just kind of into that general flat area. And as best as I could tell, the elevation in that area is the same everywhere. And a couple of questions, I'm not going to read my letter, but a couple of questions basically, what's the capacity of that area to retain the water? How much water can go into that area before it's going to just drain back onto Meadow Drive? The about 200 feet from the outlet of the drain, if you've ever been to that area, there's kind of a cleared area. Looks like it used to be a road or a path that I think the township now owns. And the water drains directly, it's going to drain directly out of that area and head down toward the sewage lift tank, which is installed. And the altitude of the sewage lift tank is about exactly the same as the altitude of the area in the woods. Now, there's a bunch of debris and everything sort of blocking into the woods. So the concern is the water just going to drain there, fill that up and get contaminated with sewage from the lift tank? So we just wanted some questions of how's that all going to work? Because we didn't want to have inadvertently water going in, getting sewage contaminated and then coming back into the neighborhood anyway. So, we don't want to solve one problem by creating another problem. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, so in response to that, that's certainly something that we looked at when we designed the project, and I'll have a detailed explanation via email to you with the calculations and the numbers that kind of indicate that how we have addressed that and why we believe that that's the best course for intercepting that water that's coming off the roadway of from Taylorsville, crossing over Taylorsville and getting to Mapleville. In actuality, though, item F, this resolution is for phase 2 of Mapleville, which is adding inlets on Highland Drive and intercepting the water that's coming down from Highland Drive
Oh, I see.
and putting that into the stream before it crosses Taylorsville and gets into Mapleville on the north side of the Mapleville loop.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a separate, this project, the one that you had referred to, has been bid out. It's currently under construction and we anticipate that being completed by the middle of January.
Oh, okay. Because nothing has happened there for about 2.5 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
We thought they ran out of money.
No, the contractor is on hold for a number of days, and then they're going to pick it up early next year and complete it. They only have about a week worth of work that they've indicated will complete it. So
But with that portion then is I think one of the biggest areas we're concerned about is not just the drains, but clearing that stream because it's really choked with vines and other
for
greens,
phase 2,
overflow.
Mapleville. Yeah, that's part of the project as well, is adding the inlets on Highland Drive, but then also eliminating or clearing out the gravel bar or the sediment that's within the stream from the bridge on Highland Drive all the way up to there's a bridge that is a driveway bridge that is about 4 houses up. And there's sediment in there too.
Yep,
So
just where you mean.
yeah, so that's part of the project
Okay.
as well.
Well, thank you very much for your time and attention, and I look forward to hearing back from the.
Yeah, I think the thing to understand is that this is kind of, we're just in the middle of the construction of the improvements. And so we haven't forgot about you. We're still in the process of making these improvements to.
Is
to
there
better
any
everything.
concern that you didn't actually recover some volume from the street resurfacing that you were hoping to recover? Because I know that was one of the big considerations, that you were going to mill and repave and hopefully we get about 6 inches, but the curb seems to be almost exactly the same as it was. So I'm not sure we gained anything there.
So we did, we lowered the road was had a cross slope of almost 2.5 to 3%. And what we did was we lowered that down to 1%. So we lowered the center line of the roadway.
Oh, so you flattened
Right.
the arc, whatever it's called, the crown.
The-
Thank you.
Yeah, the crown of the roadway.
Right.
Right. So that we had to keep the curb line relatively similar because we didn't want people bottoming out as they were pulling out of their driveway.
Okay.
That would have left a 5-inch gap from the top of the drive. What happened was there was a contractor that went through and put asphalt paving down all over top of a lot of the concrete curbs of the driveways and raised the driveways up 1.5 to 2 inches. So it would have been a significant project to remediate all of that.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you again. Yeah, absolutely.
On to Mr. Richel's question, about basically, did you do a as-built topographic survey or anything just to check during the inspections to check that they got the elevations right, so that the volume control on the roads would be?
We haven't done an as-built survey. I mean, that's something that we could look at doing afterwards, but how we monitored it was after they had milled the roadway, we went out and checked with a level to make sure that it was a 1% cross slope at the crown as opposed to what was there previously. So
With it might make sense when because they're probably going to have a surveyor when they put in the new.
yeah,
they'll take
for
a
the
few spots just to check. And then in terms of the drainage, right? That's all gravity, topography. Is there a topographic survey completed for the design phase that tells us, when you're doing your stormwater review, where the water is going to go as it gets to the invert or flows off the road?
for phase 1 of Maple Vale?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is, but it doesn't, we didn't survey the entire area that is owned by the township land back there.
Right.
So we didn't extend it back down to where right. Yeah, we didn't do that, but we do have elevation shots of from Maple Vale roadway down to the outfall.
And for their benefit, because I live across the street from y'all, so this is my neighborhood too. You know this. For the area, I'll call it the nub that hasn't been done yet. Do we have a good feel for what the time frame is for completion? Right now, there's big piles of stone.
Right, yeah,
Laying out in the middle of the road, it's kind of, it's not the safest to drive by.
right.
I understand that because I've driven it since then, just to see. Can they get some feel for how long it's going to take?
I think that in conversations that I've had with the contractor, once they get back and mobilized over there, it should be about a week's worth of work, but there's some stuff that's prohibiting them from getting in there at this point.
Do we have any idea if it's going to be a week, a month? What,
I think realistically, we're 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know as you come in, that's the southern entrance to Maple Vale.
Mhm.
Whether you're coming in or coming out, there's not a great line of sight. But and it's squeezed tight. So if someone's coming fairly quick off of Taylorsville in there, they're not going to have much room to see who's coming. So I know that's what everyone's concerned about because I had that concern when I was driving it. So.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was out there. So yeah, middle of January, our worst case scenario, end of January. I think everything should be buttoned up.
And with all the rain that we're expecting the next couple of days in the area, other places north are getting snow. We're getting a lot of rain. Is there any concern about ponding in that area or anything they should keep an eye out for?
Yes, there's always, with any rainstorm, there's always concerns about ponding, but as far as specific to the project, I don't think that that's going to be anything that exacerbates the situation.
Okay.
Any other public comment regarding this?
We have 2 public comments online.
Yep, I have one more in the room and then I'll go over to them. It's very tall, yes.
No,
wanna
I'm
s-
very short.
If you want to
Um,
state your name and address for the
Sure.
record.
Holly Bussey, 20 Knoll Drive. I'm just trying to get a comprehensive overview of where things stand regarding the, I guess, township-owned piece of property for Mapleville in that section. Is that whole open space now owned by the township?
There's,
Go ahead.
sorry,
Yeah.
so if you're, I'm looking at the map here. If you,
So I know, you could tell, I know the vision, so you could talk that way if you want.
you know the lift station that's there?
Yeah.
Okay, so the trail that goes back to
Yes.
the bridge, there's about 3 acres or so, and I could pull up the exact acreage if you want me to, but there's about 3 acres that the township bought several years back now,
Correct.
when access to the path was cut off. Those 3 acres are township owned. There's the balance of, let's say, 6 to 9 acres, 6 to 7 acres. I forget what the balance is that Mr. Jennings still owns is still his private property. The township doesn't own that. So there's 3 acres plus or minus tenths that the township owns that allows for access to the towpath and all that stuff. And then there's an additional 6-ish acres that Mr. Jennings still owns.
Right. Is the intention to do anything with that? Either as a parcel itself or in connection with Mr. Jennings' property?
So I know at one point, whether it was Mr. Jennings or someone who was looking to develop that property, I don't recall who had approached.
He had a plan he presented, had some variance requests before the zoning hearing board. Early this year, last year or something, and that kind of fell off the face of the earth after one hearing, I think, or
Yeah,
something.
and I think we voted to possibly oppose those variances as a board. So as of right now, I'm not aware of anything, one that he's proposing, or also that the township's proposing for his current, the property that he currently owns.
Okay. And would we be notified if there was a change in that? Would we be
Oh, yeah,
aware?
well, if he's,
I mean, to me personally, I'd love to see open space or passive utilization of that land because we don't have a lot of passive areas to enjoy or connect safely to other parts of trails and stuff. So I didn't know if there was a process in place or that hasn't been considered yet.
So what I can say is, if he or anyone else wants to develop it in some way, shape, or form, that'll absolutely be a public process. It is zone resource protection. And Mr. Rajewski, if I get that zone wrong, please tell me, where it's very limited to any greater density that could possibly develop based on how it's developed now. So not real, I don't know if anything new could go there in greater density than what it is, but so there's that from a development concern perspective. I don't know that it could do anything more. So that's a good thing for what you're concerned about, right? Now, he still owns it. I believe he's going to continue owning it. He can't develop it, so it's gonna at least remain the way it is for the foreseeable future that I can tell.
Okay.
So that I hope.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? Yes, please. Hi.
My name is April Bullwage-Clower. I'm at 20 Mapleville. My question, it's not really a question, it's more of a statement and a concern about the curb situation. So we sit at the very bottom of Mapleville, the house that flooded twice in in the 10 years. We understand that you leveled the middle of the road, but we're getting more puddling in our driveways now since the road was repaved. And my neighbor sent me a picture of his house, same situation. So we're not really seeing any relief from that milling process. And we can understand that, sure, it wasn't what it turned out to be, and we decided to abandon because of a couple driveways, but there are a lot more houses in those couple driveways. We saw them driving through. There were 2 houses. I'm wondering if there isn't something that could be done for the driveway situation. Is there no way to smooth the driveway out so it can come out and the street can still be higher? We get so much water in that middle of the road. I can show you pictures from just a regular rain, and it's just so much water condensed in that little space, and all the water comes to those drains where our houses all sit.
I'm happy to come out there and take a look at it during the next rain event and review it with you. Yeah.
Yeah, see you over Christmas, you can come by.
Yeah.
We're cooking, it'll be good. Yeah.
Right.
Christmas in Mapleville.
Yeah, and to Dan's point too, it's just a concern of now all that debris. People's families are coming for Christmas. You can't see anything on that corner. the street is lifted. And I know that we understand something happened with construction. You guys are trying to get somebody out there, but can we get some cones or flashing lights or something that can be at the corner of the street from the township? Just for safety standpoint, it's really hard to see it at night.
I can talk with Public Works and see if that's possible.
All right, that was my thing, the curbs. We could look at them again. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment in the room? I believe there's, oh, yes. Yep, absolutely.
I happen to be Mr. Jennings at 2 McKinley
Oh,
Avenue.
hey, Mr.
And just for the
Jennings.
record, it is exactly 3 acres.
It-
It's a 75-foot swath that comes up from the bridge and then turns into a large triangle that meets about the middle point of the road. And then also for the record, there is no wetlands there. I did the study and there's no wetlands whatsoever. It's resource protected or whatever. It is all that. And as far as Mapleville goes, that's what I'm offering you to finish the conversation. I'll probably be back.
Thank you.
And as I check, on the parcel map, it is exactly 3.0 continuous acres. So thank you for that. They agree with you.
Any other public comment in the room? I believe we have 2 people on the line. If you want to bring the first person in.
All right, we're bringing in Richard now.
Thank you. Richard, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Richard Adams, 221 Taylorsville Road.
And your comment?
My comment is let me turn the volume down on my speaker so I'm not having that in the background. My comment is I've lived across the street from Mapleville for 72 years. And when it rains, the big concern, heavy rains is, the big concern is what we always called Metz's Creek from the Metz's track down through the Mulehausen estate. Never came down Taylorsville Road, never overflowed until recent years. And when it does overflow, it comes down Taylorsville Road and floods all those people that front on Taylorsville Road, but has never gotten down to the south entrance of Mapleville Drive. It goes between their homes into their backyards. And I'm very curious as to what is going to be done to put a stop to that. I'm very curious as to what is the elevation of the water underneath of the bridge closest to the I-95, and also what is the roughly the same elevation of the water where Highland Drive comes down to Taylorsville Road. My thoughts is that the creek from Taylorsville Road to the canal, somebody needs to put up the money to take a backhoe in there and lower the level of the creek so it has a free flow to the canal, which it did many years ago, back in the 1950s. It never overflowed onto Taylorsville Road. And if it needs to have the creek widened after the last home that has the little bridge to go up to their home on Taylorsville Road, so that the level stays down, and if there's debris underneath of the Taylorsville Road bridge, that debris somehow needs to be gotten out of there to get the level of a normal stream down lower so that when it does flood, it does not come down Taylorsville Road. I have no idea how this project in Mapleville came about, the reasoning behind it or anything, but when the water main broke at the second house in Mapleville off of Taylorsville Road on the right, the water never came up that high to get into these two new culverts that have been installed. The culverts seem to be installed at the highest spot, and I really question how much water's ever going to go into them. The comment about water off of Taylorsville Road flowing into Maple Vale. I've never seen that, and I look down upon it from my window. I really don't know why the money's being spent for those two culverts, one of which is extremely high. It's almost as high as the curb, the one on the north side of Maplevale Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Do you have any?
The only thing I'll
Yeah,
say is,
I've got one other comment. The
Okay.
backhoe that's parked on the folks' grass, well, it's mud now, but grass, that's in the line of sight for those people coming out of Maplevale, stopping at the stop sign. If the contractor could move that out of the way so that in the daytime, when you have no headlights, people coming up from Yardley that are way over the speed limit, that backhoe should be moved quickly. Put it somewhere else until you're going to go back to work with it.
We can talk with the contractor to get the backhoe moved and the sediment removal from the stream, what he was referring to. That's absolutely in the scope for phase 2.
And
I see.
a little bit more of what he was talking about. I was pulling up pictures on my phone from a few years back when, I don't know, everyone here remembers when Taylorsville flooded. And I was out there in my knee-high rubber boots and reflective clothing and lifting logs out of there with my father, who happened to be visiting from Maine. He was laughing at me, but we had a good 6 inches of water at Highland and Taylorsville, right where that's because the stream was so backed up, and it was so the stream was overflowing into the road, and their neighborhood got crushed. I remember walking through afterwards and seeing all the sediment, what I would call the rack line on your driveways and other things. So that's what we're trying to, after the fact, trying to fix as much as we can with this process. So it's a combination of volume, storage, and flow direction. What is phase 1, and then phase 2 is to clean. This when the stream overflows, it goes right to you all. That's just gravity happening. So we're trying to keep that, to Mr. Adams's comment there. We're trying to keep the stream clean because it has gotten kind of backed up with debris over the years, obviously. But you need permits to do that from the state. So we have to get that covered so we can keep that water flowing. So it'll go towards, north towards the bridge and all that, and part of their system too. So hopefully that can happen sooner than later to get the whole system done, but it's moving forward. Knock on wood.
Could I make one more comment?
Yes, absolutely.
I would have thought that the first thing to do would be to get that stream flowing, especially under the bridge that's backed up with debris in there, and so that when we have thaws this winter or some downpours, when the ground's frozen and all that water comes down from the Highland Drive and the former Mulehausen Estate and whatever the neighborhood is to the west of that area, that we should have, with no materials needed other than a backhoe and a person to operate it, cleaned all that out going down to the canal.
Thank you again, Mr. Adams. I believe there's one other caller.
We actually now have 2 other callers, but I'm bringing in Katrina now.
Thank you.
Katrina is now in the room.
Thank you. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Katrina Pfeiffer, 8 McKinley Avenue.
And your comment?
I have no further comment or disagreement with the comments made regarding Maple Vale. My direct interest was regarding the Jennings plot of land, as it is adjacent to the 3 acres currently owned by the township. And if that comes up for discussion, I would have further comment on that, but nothing more specific to the Maple Vale drainage project. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we have one caller left.
Bringing in Kimberly now.
Thank you.
Kimberly, you're now in the room.
You state your name and address for the record, please.
Kimberly Mummy, 36 Maplevale Drive.
And your comment, Kimberly?
I appreciate the time that David Rischel took to put together the letter that he sent to you and the support that Dan is giving us. I agree with April. I live on the north side of Maplevale, and luckily I grew up on Highland Drive, didn't move far. I've been there for 35 years. And luckily my house has never flooded, but I can tell you that, as the other gentleman said, the water that comes down from Highland on my side of the street can go up past my knee. It's a stream. And since they have done the paving, which there is definitely a pitch to the road, but now I get water that lays at the end of my driveway. There's water that lays at the north end of Maplevale and Meadow now that never used to lay there before. And for the folks that do get flooded, I am concerned because the stream at the bottom of Highland, there's so much debris that's in there right now with this water that the storm that's coming. I'm definitely worried about those people down there. But I do, I think the gentleman that made the comment before, I understand moving that equipment, but I'm not sure that we can really wait 3 weeks at this point, right? I mean, maybe they can move that before that and try to take care of some of that because, you've got the potential of the rain that's coming or snow or ice. And it's that end, I don't even know how people could try to go out that end at this point.
Yeah, I think the thinking is that we're going to talk with the contractor immediately and have them move that backhoe or that equipment immediately.
Well, you might also, if possible, if the township could take a look at the debris that's in that stream at the bottom of Highland, Maplevale Highland. There's trees in there. I mean, it's just going to come over again.
We know that that's a concern, and that's, again, that's in the scope for this project for phase 2.
The one, hi, Kim.
Hi.
The one issue we have with the stream is that in order to remove that type of debris in a stream in Pennsylvania, you have to get permits from the Pennsylvania DEP. The township can't just go in and do it as a.
And take the trees that are laying there, because you remember that last storm where they all got flooded. There were trees that were sticking up through the bridge. I mean, it was just, you got that much water coming, and I'm afraid that it's going to happen because the person that lives, and I guess it's his property there, because I did look that up. I mean, they dump all kinds of stuff in that stream, and then it just, it doesn't have the ability to move. But I'm not an engineer like you are. But I do appreciate the comments and that you guys are really looking into this, because it's devastating for the folks on the other side of the neighborhood that have been flooded so many times.
Yeah. And Andy, when you talk to the contractor, looking at I've been following this weather report pretty closely, given the holidays and everything else. And right now it looks, if you do the hour by hour, it looks like it's going to start hitting us about noon tomorrow. So if it's possible for them to get out in the morning, and then it's supposed to be a couple inches of rain each day almost. It's pretty high volume of rain, so it's going to come quickly. So anything they can do to help us out would be appreciated. Right,
anything that we could do. I mean, the other concern here, not that this is really part of this meeting, but there's so much being done up on Highland, driveways widened kind of without permits and pools put in, and it's affecting the impervious surface too. So I just hope you guys kind of take a look at all of that, because like I said, I do feel badly for my neighbors. And now that the street has been done, and I'm starting to have water problems at my own house, just at the end of my driveway, but I appreciate you guys taking the time to discuss this and look into it for me and my neighbors.
Thank you for the comment. Any other public comment on the line?
No further public comment online.
Thank you. Okay, so I think that we've addressed the Maplevale issues for now. Excellent. Yes, you wanted to say something else? Yes.
I'm not here for the Maplevale issue about the drainage, but if the equipment is an eyesore, you can, the contractor could just drive it around the corner and put it on my property until they're ready to utilize it again. You're welcome to do that.
Appreciate that.
McKinley.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Appreciate that. All right, so we are going back to our regular scheduled programming here. Number 7, engineers report. Number A is a consider change to order number 1 for the 2022 bike path management project to General Asphalt Paving Company in the amount of $0.00.
I'll second.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor Grenier. Any discussion?
Can I request future change orders of this amount? If they're not going to be negative?
To be, yeah. Any public comment? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Bill Gabota, 1230 Ash Lane in the township. Could somebody please explain the $0 change order? Help me out here. Thank you.
Welcome.
So there was additional work at a driveway at Dolington Road, which amounted to approximately $4,500. And then the remainder of the work, the quantities that we pay the projects based on the quantities that are placed in the field. And so the other line items within the contract were so much lower than what was originally bid that it balanced out to zero. So it's more of one, less of another that works out to zero.
And we still have to vote on it because there's technically a change.
Correct. Yes.
Any other questions? Any public comment on the line? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries 5-0. Next up is consider pay application number 1, final for the 2022 bike path maintenance project to General Asphalt Paving in the amount of $106,590.
So moved.
That we approve pay application number 1 final for the 2022 bike path maintenance project, General Asphalt and Paving Company in the amount of $106,590.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor Weiss. Any discussion?
We still have a couple $1,000s in retainage. If I'm reading your letter correctly, is those punch?
We're waiting on the maintenance bond.
That's it. Okay.
Yep.
And you're satisfied with all the inspections, the work done?
Yeah, the work has been completed. Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chair, it makes sense to do D before C.
Thank you. 7D, consider to change order number 5 for the Memorial Park Improvements Project, Phase 2, as credit to the township in the amount of $5,000. Do I hear a motion?
Moved.
Do I hear a second? A motion made by Supervisor Grenier, seconded by Supervisor Weiss. Any discussion?
Real quick clarification. This is related to the
Topsoil.
topsoil issue.
Yeah.
that We're going to do for cheaper if we do it this way, and then we can get our
Correct.
grant fund.
Correct.
Okay.
Good move. Excellent move. Any other discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Moving back to agenda item number 7C, consider pay application number 7, final for the Memorial Park Improvements Project, Phase 2 to Miko Constructions, Inc. in the amount of $14,940.93. Do I hear a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Motion moved by, made by Supervisor Grenier, seconded by Supervisor Lewis. Any discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0.
You know how quickly we're going to get reimbursed?
Monica has been working on that, the Director of Parks and Recreation. So I know that all of the information is going to be submitted before the end of the year. And so I think a check should come fairly quickly after that.
And that was for D, just to make sure, right? The credit for 5,000. That's what you were asking me about.
No, this is the reimbursement from the
For
grant.
entire project. Okay.
Yeah.
As long as we pay out C, that means the project's done.
Correct.
Then we can go
Correct.
then we can get the big reimbursement.
Got you.
Okay. Which is.
Okay. Agenda item 7E, consider escrow release number 5 for the Prickett Preserve Development to ELU DeLuca Yardley LLC in the amount of $610,907. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Supervisor Weiss, seconded by Supervisor Blondie. Any discussion?
Yeah, standard question. In terms of work completed, you're comfortable with the amount of work completed related to
We are. This covers underground stormwater management system, stone for the roadways and asphalt paving for the roadways, and a significant portion of the asphalt paving has already been completed. So
I haven't driven by there in a while because honestly, the light show scares me trying to get anywhere near there. I tried to get food this weekend and it took forever. But from your short version, it looks like most of the civil work related to the interior roads are done then based off of this?
yeah. The base course is down, curb is in. So yeah, the interior roads and actually a lot of the parking lots too.
Any other discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1, opposed by Supervisor Lewis. And finally, agenda item number 7F, consider approval of resolution number 22-27 to authorize matching funds for the PA Small Water and Sewer Grant application for the Maple Vale Drainage Project Phase 2 in the amount of $26,100. Do I hear a motion?
Moved.
It was a tie, so I will give it to Supervisor Lewis, and the second was Supervisor Grenier. Any discussion?
Hopefully we're successful, and I wanted to say thank you to Senator Stanisiero for giving us a heads up that these were available, so we can go forward and hopefully be successful with these.
Any public comment? Yes, sir. I hate to make you do it, but if you could state your name and address.
That's
again.
fine. Dave Virtual, 220 Meadow Drive.
Thank you.
Quick question. Is it possible to get details of what phase 2 is going to involve? And would there be any opportunity for public comment about the scope of this project once it moves ahead?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. You want me to give the short version?
Go ahead.
Or you want to do it?
But go ahead.
All right,
Yeah.
so there's a new inlet going in. If you know where I live, just below where I live, like sort of kind of near 1 Highland Drive.
Yep.
There's an inlet going in just above the existing inlet. That's going to connect to the culvert that goes under Highland into the stream to the north.
Yeah, it'll outfall on the downside of the stream,
Yeah.
so that water won't be affected by any clogs that
Right.
could potentially happen for the Highland Drive.
So from an engineering perspective, that's the primary phase 2, but it also, for what everyone's been talking about tonight, it also includes the cleaning of the stream.
Okay.
So those are the 2 biggies for phase 2.
Right. It doesn't do anything about drainage on Taylorsville itself.
No, not.
It intercepts the water before it gets to Taylorsville and puts it into the stream.
Plus the water is coming down Highland Drive because Highland Drive's on a hill. It'll intercept the water in that inlet that's gonna be on the south side of Highland, just between 1 and 3, just north of the if you're familiar, there is an.
Yep.
It'll be just up the hill from that. So it'll capture drainage coming down the hill from Highland, which is a good thing. And then at the same time, the stream will be clean, so reduces the likelihood of overflow from the stream during storm.
Okay, good.
Flow moving.
And is there a timeline for this?
Spring, based on the grant information, the notification that we get from the grant funding agency.
State's given the okay to.
Well, the state has to vote on it. So we're applying for the grant. The application deadline is today, so we're applying for the grant, and then hopefully we get it and we can move forward. But I believe that the township has budgeted for funds, even if we don't get the grant.
If you need any community support for state approval, let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other public comment? Yes, sir. I'm gonna have to make you say your name and address for the record one more time.
Again, I'm Joe Jennings from 2 McKinley Avenue. Since we're still talking about the same neighborhood, and I might be able to bring something up that would clear half the room for you. This is a comment as far as my neighbors and myself are concerned. I own 2 McKinley, and I know we've talked about possible moving on with something with that property. A lot of my neighbors have gone out and got petitions regarding turning it into open space and for that effect in a passive park type situation. And there's quite a few of those people are here. And we just wanted to bring it to your attention that we're still getting a lot of people asking questions. I get a lot of questions asked to me, like, what's going on with the property. And I get a lot of people crossing the property illegally, and it's a lot for me to maintain as far as the liability of it. So I'd like to bring it to your attention that we're not on the agenda, so I just want to mention it to you that there's a few people here. There was going to be quite a few more, but a lot of people seem to be sick and the time of year with the holidays and all, they're not here. And I wanted them to bring it up in January sometime later. And with spring being around the corner, I'd like to maybe get on the agenda to bring the issue up in January or something like that, if that's possible.
Excellent. And if you're here to speak on that, there's going to be a second public comment as well. So they'll have the opportunity later in this meeting to come up and give any feedback regarding.
Yeah, I think the woman Katrina who was on Zoom, I think she was waiting for this issue to
Come
come
back.
up also. Yeah, there might be a
Okay.
couple other people on Zoom.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else here has to say anything in support of that. They're welcome to. Would this be a good time while we're on the subject and in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I think we're going to go wait until public comment at the second part of public comment. The first part of public comment, we just did specifically because of what was going on with Maple Vale with the engineer.
Okay,
But we will definitely come back to it. And
maybe I jumped the gun a little bit.
it's okay. That's
Okay,
fine.
I just wanted to bring it up because I know everybody wants to go home.
Yeah, I won't keep you guys late. I promise. Thank you. All right, so we do have a motion on the floor. I think, is there any other public comment regarding this motion? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to agenda item number 8, project updates. Memorial Park Project, DCNR conducted final inspection. Punch list items are being completed. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Pockel regarding this? Agenda item 8B, multi-use trail work on ADA ramps and traffic signals have started, anticipated to be completed by the end of the year. Do we have any questions for Mr. Pockel on this?
Would he be able to answer those?
Sure. I hope.
Well, that's the one across the street. So
Yeah, that's the project that's across the street that I'm
Mr. Majewski.
outside of my purview. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
As he
That would be Mr. Majewski.
saunters up to the mic.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Majewski regarding this?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I was thinking as driving in because you can see where they're doing more of the ADA curb stuff in front. I think right here, there seems to be one going in. I'm just curious about time frame because it seems like it's not going at a rapid pace. So I'm curious if that's just because they're done with one phase and moving to the next, or if there's something that's actually slowing it up because I expect them to be done.
They're just moving a little bit slowly. And to update the update, they probably won't be done by the end of the year. They do have a little bit more work to do with weather and everything. It'll be sometime next year. I'm not sure exactly when, depending on the weather.
But first part of next year, right?
Yes, early
Okay,
next year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Somewhere in 2023.
So, and I know they are staying in contact with you, but is it Michael Baker as the contractor? Am I totally off?
I think.
The contractor is Richard Pearson.
Okay.
Okay.
Baker. Baker did the design, the
Roundabout.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. And then TPD's doing sort of the engineering oversight, right?
Yeah, they're doing the construction inspection.
Doing the inspection. Okay.
Right.
They're
And they're watching the watcher along with PennDOT watching everyone. So there's a lot of people involved in this one.
But I just want to make sure that are you the point of contact at the township? Or
Yes, if anyone has any questions, they could reach out to me and I can help answer any questions anyone may have.
I just want to make sure that the contractor is staying in touch with you too on all that stuff.
Yes,
Okay.
and every time we ask them for an update, it seems to move back a little bit. So as of 2 weeks ago, we thought they might be almost substantially complete by the end of the year. And now it looks like they're not going to quite meet that.
How far behind are they, do you think, rough, on their original schedules?
I think the original schedule said they were going to be finished in mid-January. So they do have until then. After that, then they have the potential to have liquidated damages against them by PennDOT for delaying the project.
Stated my question. That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Majewski? Don't leave yet. I think you're next on that. Project update, Woodside Bike Path. Contracts have been signed and pre-construction meeting was held November 2nd. Does anybody have any questions regarding that?
That's true.
So quick question on that one, Andy. I know there's some movement of utilities. Is that on track? Are we getting traction on that?
It is, and actually, Richard Pearson is the contractor for that project as well. And so they are indicating that they want to start that in January. So I feel like after they're finished with the other project, that they might just move right over and start.
They would start the next
Yeah,
one and then
yeah.
they'd have a full project plan then by early January, mid-January, I think.
I'm sorry.
They'll have a project plan complete, timelines.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Another question. I was running through there the other day, and it's really interesting because the Bridge Commission on their side of the street, they kind of built this sidewalk to nowhere that doesn't go all the way up to the corner, so to speak. Not that we line up with that corner, we're catty corner to it, but I'm just curious. I forget in the design where we're gonna end up at the corner of Woodside and Taylorsville on the north side of that.
Yeah. So we had a separate bid or an alternate bid to complete the work within the Taylorsville Road intersection. And those prices came in very high. And so we are stopping at the northwest corner of that intersection. And I would say about 15 feet back from the curb line. And then once we get a project that is a reasonable dollar amount, we'll proceed with the trail, continuing that across Taylorsville Road and then across and then south across Woodside Road to tie into that walkway that the Joint Toll Bridge Commission has constructed.
And they constructed it to be many feet short of the corner there.
They stopped at the right of way basically because they didn't want to get a PennDOT HOP permit for that work.
We're looking for grants or anything like that in the meantime?
We are, yeah.
So then we would build on the northeast side of Woodside Taylorsville?
Yes, so
Yeah.
correct.
So just like a little bit of space to match up where they stopped.
Yeah, there's an existing guide rail there that we would construct a short portion of the path behind the guide rail and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although maybe we should talk to them about their they were supposed to end at Taylorsville Road. So we do have sort of an agreement with them, but we can talk to them about that.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Pockel? Okay, hearing none, we are moving on to agenda item number 9. Mr. Truelove, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two things briefly before we get to the agenda items. There was an executive session, I think it was reported on briefly before it was conducted at the last meeting. At the end of the last meeting, all supervisors were present along with my partner, Barbara Kirk, and the chief regarding personnel matters. There's also an executive session tonight, 6:30 it started, ended around 7:20 p.m. All board members were present, as well as the chief, myself, and items regarding real estate litigation and informational items were discussed at that executive session, which concluded before an interview for the ad hoc committee occurred at 7:20. The first item under my report, consider approval of resolution 22-25 for a blanket easement over the property in favor of the township is approved in the reserve at Manor Lane final land development agreement to orient everybody. This is the old Marazzo's location at Stutphin and Yardley Morrisville Road, which has now been converted to townhouse development. The purpose of this easement is to enable the township, when needed, to access stormwater sewer system facilities, as well as any emergency access. If you notice, if you drive by that location, the Yardley Morrisville Road, there is an access opening there that's blocked by a chain right now, but this would allow the township, obviously, to be able to access that area where necessary. I want to point out that the internal road is not dedicated, so it doesn't require the township to plow that. That's actually something that's part of the HOA for that area. So we would ask for you to make a motion to approve that resolution.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Weiss, seconded by Supervisor Lewis. Any discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Yes, the next resolution is 22-26 to regarding a pump and haul agreement for the Perkins Preserve Land Development Project. This involves the conveyance of the sewage collection up to an amount of 3,000 gallons. And then at that time, it would be conveyed to Aqua. This has to be done pursuant to an application with DEP. This resolution would authorize the developer to make such application under those circumstances.
I hear a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor Blondie. Any discussion?
Yeah, I don't know who, Dave, are you the one with info on this one, or maybe? It should, so it's a temporary pump and.
Temporary, yes, it's temporary until the volume reaches a certain level, which is specified in the resolution and in the agreement of 3,000 gallons. I guess that's something I think for DEP per day. Yeah, it's a DEP design threshold, I guess, is the way I understand it. There's been a lot of discussion with DEP, so this is not going to be a surprise to DEP when they get this. So,
And they're also putting, I think people should know this, they're putting $10,000 in escrow.
yes,
Until such time that.
until it's connected to Aqua. Yep.
What are the potential issues with this? If they miss the connection with the tanker truck or something, is that pretty much your biggest potential issue to clean it up?
Sorry, I'm not really familiar with the situation and.
I think to your
not
point,
the-
I think that is the biggest issue is if there's somehow and I would hope that whoever the entity is that would be conveying it would indemnify both the developer as well as the township in that circumstance. So
I don't think we're too close to streams where they're at there, right? So, but any potential discharges, we don't.
Right, yeah, no, there's not.
All right, that's the.
It's a fair question.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
And I'm sure the Bucks County Conservation will be out down here looking at it too. So.
Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries 5-0.
Next is, you may recall that about 2-3 months ago was the Chapter 166 ordinance amendment for sewer delinquent charges was approved for advertisement. It was properly advertised, and we're now, after some discussion internally about the process by which the information can be accessed, I think we have a solution for that. It is now appropriate, now that's been advertised, for the board to consider approving the ordinance amendment as indicated.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Blondie, seconded by Supervisor Lewis. Any discussion or PSAs?
If you have not paid your delinquent sewer charges, please pay. We have outsourced this to some of the toughest pipe hitting people out there. And I'm talking about collections. These guys are brutal, right? You don't want that. Pay your sewer bill. Just public service announcement. This is probably as hard as we could go out. Well, we could do execution sales, which I would have enjoyed.
You would know how to do that, Mr.
Yes, but so please pay your sewer bills. Oh my gosh. Because it's like $1 million and it's significant. And don't call me when they're coming for you. Don't call me. I won't be hearing it. Pay your sewer bill. That's the end of my PSA.
Thank you, sir. Any comments?
He was the stick, apparently.
I know it's coming. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So no, if there's, I don't know that there is, but if there's someone's in a unique situation where it's significant and there's an issue of some type.
There's a hardship issue.
Hardship thing.
Sure.
What is our method for?
Well, as I understand it, and Portnoy, the entity that has been authorized to perform this type of work, does a background for every entity and gives the property owner an opportunity to make that, have a discussion about that. So they don't treat everybody across the board as the same if they in that interactive process. There is a process for that. And they've had a lot of experience doing it over the years in other places I know they've done it locally in some other places as well. So it's not a whether it's sewer collection, whether it's tax bills, things like that, they have the same process in place to do that. And it is one that they're not just completely hard-hearted. They did actually try to do something to work with people. If they have a payment plan, they'll encourage that in lieu of going after them for all payments at once.
Does that process ever, and I'll just simple Googling, or when we were talking about them before, some of the articles were a little rough.
Mm-hmm.
The process. Yeah, we'll just say, I'll leave it at that. Does this sorry if I'm away from the mic, does this process ever involve the township where we can say, oh, hey, let's take a look at that?
I'm sure we could, if there were circumstances that the township may be aware of and that Port Duff may not be, I think it certainly would be appropriate for us to do that. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not as if there's not communication. There obviously is. So I think it's important if there's a concern that anybody has about that, we can always, have that line of communication open. I mean, in another capacity, we work with Portnoy, our firm does for another client situation, not like this. They've always been very cooperative about that. They work with a lot of other entities too. So I don't want to speak for them elsewhere, but I just know that's the way they've been. So, and it's the same individual, Mr. Burax, who works in the other place that I'm familiar with, who would be working here. So. That's helpful. Thank you.
Any other comments? Any public comment? Okay, hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. 5-0 for the 9C. And you have one more, I believe?
Yes, next, as you may recall, I think it was the November 16th meeting, we approved the amendment to the police pension ordinance, which includes a separate provision for command officers and also establishes the rate going forward, at least for this next year. And it reflects what's in the police contract, which was just recently approved by MOU. And every year there will be a resolution that's passed to establish that year's percentage pursuant to the agreement as well. So this is now to approve the police pension ordinance as was advertised.
Do I hear a motion?
Moved.
Motion made by Supervisor Grenier, seconded by Supervisor Lewis. Any discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. That's all I have until item 11.
Thank you very much. Chief, before I get to you, and I got to circle back to the engineer's report. I'm just reading the letter that was sent by Remington Vernick for the release to General Asphalt. In the letter you had it stated as $104,458.20. I believe on the agenda and on the motion, the amount was $106,590. I just want to make sure that if we need to either amend the agenda,
2% retainage was included in that.
we don't need to change that. 104,458, but I believe that the motion, but the motion was for 106,590 for the agenda. Do you remember who the maker of the motion was for agenda item number 7B?
I think it's me.
Okay, are you willing to
I would
amend?
accept a friendly amendment to revise well, actually, can I do this? Can I move to reconsider agenda item 7B, pay application number 1, final for the 2022 bike path maintenance project to General Asphalt and Paving, and which was then in the amount of $106,590. So this first motion is for you to rescind the previous motion.
Okay,
Do I get a second on that?
Second.
discussion. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
I'd like to make a new motion, Mr. Chair, if that'd be amenable.
Absolutely.
So I move that we consider pay application number 1 final for the 2022 bike path maintenance project, the General Asphalt Paving Company in the amount of $104,458.20.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor Grenier. Any discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Just to clarify, the difference in that amount is the 2% in retainage that we're retaining until we receive the maintenance bond. And so
Okay.
the
But
one
you're still good with the 104.
yes,
Okay.
that's yeah.
I just wanted to make sure they matched. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. On to you, 10A.
All right, 10A is a follow-up to Dave's pension ordinance. We would ask the board to consider approval of resolution 22-24, providing for a 3.75 contribution to the police pension fund for 2023.
Do I hear a motion?
Moved. Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Lewis, seconded by Supervisor Grenier. Any discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Next item, Chief.
The next item is consider approval of administration building renovations in the amount of $211,966.07 to S.J. Thomas Incorporated for building renovations of the second floor here in this building. S.J. Thomas is part of the Keystone Purchasing Network. They have authority through Pennsylvania law to bid on behalf of townships and municipalities. And that's an excellent bid. If you recall, several meetings ago, we rejected bids in the mid 300,000 for that same work to be performed. And in addition to the award of the bid to S.J. Thomas, I would also ask the board to approve not to exceed $5,000 for potential changes that and issues that may occur during the course of that construction.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Blondie, seconded by Supervisor Weiss. Any discussion? Shoot away.
What's our 2023 budget amount for this one?
The 2023 budget amount was 200,000. So it's approximately 16, close to 17,000 over the budget amount.
Thinking about this one, and obviously the police department has space issues. That's a given, and that's a big part of what we're doing, trying to modernize, provide space, et cetera. As this has been not brewing, but becoming more to fruition, hearing the same, over the last couple of years, I've been hearing the same types of comments, not complaints necessarily, but concerns by other groups or departments, let's say, within the township, that have the same or similar needs, and we have limited space, as you know.
Yes, I do.
So I'm wondering if it, it's like we're doing, and I sort of kind of the ad hoc property committee was charged with this a little bit, but looking at all of our facilities to see what we could do for various reasons. Obviously, Patterson's been on the forefront.
Yes.
We know that, but I wonder if we took a step back and not for too long and said, hey, let's do a facility, full-scale facility review to see what that could mean, not only for the police department, but for the other groups that use the township building, and by building the township facilities at the township complex. So all the big garages,
barns in the garages, sure.
Everything around us, even community center, to see if there's a way to address all of those concerns or most of those concerns in a short amount of time before we go spend a couple $100,000 to do one renovation where we may end up having to spend more later because our review of that says, you know what, if you do this instead, you might spend more money, however much more money across the board, but it's going to fix 80-90% of the issues. I'm making up
Right.
that. And
Well, I have a tendency to agree with you that that's long overdue to do what you just suggested. However, that's a long time in coming. And by the time we actually do the assessment, by the actual time that we come up with the money to actually make all the improvements, and you might then find out we need a whole new building. So in the meantime, I think this is a great fix for a great price. And we are kind of tight and we're kind of squeezed right now. So, and the second floor really is not being used for anything other than storage. So we'll make other arrangements for that.
We do have a pot of money sitting out there that.
We
in a
do.
Positive way, but I
That's not
understand.
going to happen anytime soon. And this
Yeah.
is long coming.
No, I understand what you're saying. It's just what I've been,
Gotcha.
and I know you understand that, so.
Any other discussion? Any public comment? Yes, sir.
Evening. Once again, Bill Gabota, 1230 Ash Lane. Could we get some idea of the scope of work that this 200 and some odd $1,000 will do?
Yeah,
Because, like, it's a surprise to me and I would be interested in the details.
sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, I'll be happy to share this entire bid and contract with you.
I believe the supervisors we got it out to you.
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, you had
Yeah.
it. You should have had it on your
Yeah, we-
package.
we-
Yeah,
we
very
sent it out.
detailed, comprehensive, that bid, every item listed on there for every
One-
contractor.
One thing we didn't get that
Yes.
I'll say, I don't want to, when I read, it's basically a punch list of, it's a
Right,
punch list of a lot of line items of a lot of different expenditures.
right.
Every widget that's going to be put in there, right? From another way to add, maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Gabota, but could you describe some of what like the second floor is going to look like this, or this is some of the stuff we're going to put in the second?
Well, basically, the second floor is going to be used by our detective division. We're going to have a lot of technical equipment there, polygraph machines, computers, and obviously office space for the individual detectives. It's more of an open space concept. There's not a whole lot of mechanical changeovers as far as air conditioning and heating, ventilations and all because of the open room concept. The outside structure is not being touched at all. It's just the actual renovation of an entire floor, similar to maybe the section from the front door of this building and all the way back on the administrative side to the bathrooms here. And that's the extent, I think, in the square footage of approximately the square footage of that area that's going to be remodeled. So, and it's for all police detective use, and that's all. And it might add, it's going to be a more secure of an area where the detectives conduct interviews, conduct polygraph examinations, and bring people in through our secure gated area in the back so that they don't interfere, or any prisoners or individuals cannot come in contact with our administrative staff. So it's a safety concern also. Thank you, sir.
And related to that, Chief, because I know I'll get questions about this.
Yeah.
too. In terms of, because it's the second floor, how will, if it's staying in the same location or moving, but how will people now access the tax office?
They could access the tax office identical, same way they do now. The tax office is not being changed. The only difference is we're providing a cut through to the bathroom facilities so that she has a bathroom facility, same as she has now.
Where is that? Is it the one that's right here or?
No, it's upstairs on the second floor towards the back. I would say near, right across from Public Works Building is the area where the bathrooms are.
So people, I mean, when I go to the tax office, I always go from the parking lot, but now people can.
No, they go in through the same way, same entrance to the tax office. Nothing changes for the tax office. The only thing that's changing on our end is the cost to break through to provide her with a bathroom. And that's not a public bathroom either. That's just for her use. That's it.
Any other public comment? Anybody on the line? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
Motion carries 4-1 with Supervisor Grenier in opposition.
Thank you.
And I believe you have one more item, sir.
One more item. This next item is the appointment of the new township manager, Mr. David W. Kratzer. That's Kratzer Jr., and the execution of his employment agreement. Mr. Kratzer's salary will be set at $200,000. He will receive 20 days of vacation, and he may participate in a 401 retirement plan, as well as the township medical coverage options.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Grenier, and I'll give it to Supervisor Blondie for the second. Any discussion? Sure.
Say something nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's here tonight, which is better. So we went.
I knew him.
Yeah, that guy. He wore a tie just for me.
Yeah.
Gosh, we've been going through this process since June, and maybe I was thinking about it even a little bit before then. So I think we went through a pretty long process we got a lot of pretty qualified applicants that we vetted through resume process as you would typically do, and interviews and follow-up interviews and staff interviews.
Yes.
And I think across the board, not just resume based, but the resume is definitely there. But personal interactions and just discussions and philosophies and various things about how to manage things. I think, we've come up with a candidate here with a new township manager that people will be happy with. He's got some challenges ahead of him, as any township manager does, to make some improvements, in different things, and give the five of us some good advice, hopefully, moving forward. But I'm looking forward to welcoming Mr. Kratzer to our township and getting to work. Do we have
We have a start date of January 9th.
January 9th. So he's got a few weeks, but he'll be coming in ready to hit the ground running, I think. So welcome.
Any other comments?
I would say nice stuff about him, but first we gotta get him approved, and then we should allow him to talk. I'll call the question.
Anybody else? I guess we'll call it a question then. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Mr. Kratzer, if you would like to step up and just say a few words on behalf of your new position as the township manager effective January 9th, 2023.
Well, thank you so much. Again, I look forward to getting to work. I'd like to express my thanks and appreciation for the opportunity and the vote of confidence. This is a significant professional opportunity for me. Lower Makefield Township is a community with a rich history of excellence, and I look forward to working cooperatively with each of you, with the various boards and commissions, the township staff, the community at large, to really sustain and sort of build upon those successes. And so my family and I are looking forward to becoming a part of this community. Again, as I said, I just want to thank you for the opportunity and look forward to get started and get to work. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think you are done then.
Done.
You are
Thank
done.
you very much.
We are going to kick it back over to Mr. Truelove for some zoning hearing board.
I know we're going to bring it all down.
Oh, here we go.
There are 4 zoning hearing board appeals that we'll be considering briefly here tonight. First, appeal number 23-1989. Ellen and George Rusnak for the property located at 1264 Bridal Estates Drive, tax parcel 20-068-100. Applicants are requesting a variance from Township Zoning Ordinance 200-69.A14 small c in order to install a fence in the stormwater easement. After reviewing this, we recommend deferral unless there's a contrary sentiment by the board. Hearing none, no vote is required. So I'll move to appeal number 23-1990. Jenny Ornstein James for the property located at 2195 Twining Road. The address is Newtown, PA, but in Lower Makefield Township, tax parcel 20-003-019-005. Applicants request a variance from Township Zoning Ordinance 200-69A14A, small a, in order to place a shed in the rear third of the lot. Again, after looking at this and knowing that the zoning hearing board's experience with dealing with these is pretty copious, we recommend deferral unless there's a contrary sentiment from the board. Hearing none. Third item, item C, appeal number 23-1991, Manfred McDevitt for the property located at 335 Sherwood Drive, tax parcel 20-042-310, requesting a variance, from Township Zoning Ordinance 200-69A14 small a, similar to the last appeal, in order to place a shed 4 feet from the property line instead of the required 10 feet. Again, we recommend deferral unless there's a contrary sentiment, which require a vote. I don't hear any. Then we'll move on to the final matter. Appeal 23-1992, Susan Dlugosz for the property located, I think that's how you pronounce it. My days in Hungary are helpful to me. The property located at 1138 Gary Drive, tax parcel 20-057-164. The applicant requests a variance from the Township zoning ordinance 200-23 in order to install an in-ground concrete pool and pool decking, which would increase the impervious surface from the existing 28% to 29.9%. Again, the zoning hearing board has a great deal of experience in addressing these issues, and therefore we recommend deferral unless there's the contrary sentiment. Hearing none, that's all my report is for those appeals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Truelove. Community development. Looks like we have a motion here to consider pay application number 5 for the Lower Makefield Community Trail Project to Richard E. Pearson Construction, Inc. in the amount of $31,696.38. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Weiss, seconded by Supervisor Blondie. Any discussion? Any public comment? Yes, please. You want to step up to the microphone and say your name and address, please? Pardon me? Oh, yeah, we're not quite there yet. Yep, I'll let you know when we're there. We're still at 12A. Anybody want to make a public comment regarding 12A? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carries 5-0. Finally, floodplain management activities update. Mr. Jim.
Good evening. As you all know, the township does a lot towards providing floodplain management support services for our community. We are a community rating system community where residents receive a 15% discount on their homeowners flood insurance discount rates or flood insurance rates. And that's due to the fact that we do a lot of outreach to the public. We give presentations like this. We have methods in place for dealing with flooding, apply for grants, and do all that stuff in order to try to reduce flood damage to property, to strengthen the National Flood Insurance Program, and to encourage a comprehensive approach to floodplain management. This year, FEMA finally notified us that they've approved the hazard mitigation plan. That plan is prepared by the county. You may recall, I believe it was a year ago, that we had done a resolution accepting the Bucks County Hazard Mitigation Plan that the township participated in the preparation of, that outlined activities that we said we were going to do as an ongoing basis. And as you can see in my report, there are a number of activities that we've continued to do. We're currently working on finalizing a grant that we actually applied for 2 years ago. We worked with PEMA with the upshot and costs for construction projects. It looked like we were going to fall short. So we applied to rescope the project, get an additional $70,000 in funding to make the project happen. And hopefully we'll be hearing on that shortly. And if there's anyone in the audience listening, if you have any questions about floodplain management or want to look into the possibility of grants, just call our office and we'll try to sit down with you and work through that. We are starting now working towards a few extra homes to try to maybe elevate in the future. So now's the time to get that rolling. It takes a long time and a lot of effort to get those things in the pipeline. And I'm not sure if anyone has any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Majewski?
Just a quick comment.
Absolutely.
So first, we've had 200-year floods in what, 20 or 250-year floods in the last 20 years. Jim, rough 10 years. Yeah. Well, actually, long time. The board, long before I or any of us joined it, had, once the first large flood. Yeah. So between 2006 and 2010, the board then took a number of steps to help mitigate flood issues within the community. And the CRS was the one thing that came later. It was something we finally did, I think, in 2016 as a board. So when you hear board members talk about impervious surface, unfortunately, we have an audience who's very friendly today about that. So many times we get told, well, why do you have to make us do all these things? It's because we have to protect other neighbors. The CRS is extraordinarily important for a couple of reasons. One, that status is saving people at minimum 15, but as much as 25% on their homeowners or their flood insurance for us being in the CRS system. So it's a huge deal for Lower Makefield compared to peer townships. There aren't that many that have the full CRS rating. If you look nationwide, you always see this places like Arkansas or other places have done the same thing. But it's very important. Hopefully the board will continue last 20 years or I don't know, 15 years, keep doing on the stuff to protect people from floods. So I'm excited that we're continuing on the CRS process.
Excellent. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Majewski? Thank you. You're off the hook. Okay, we are moving on to agenda item number 13. That's general public comment. So if you have a general public comment regarding any issues or questions, please step up to the microphone. Just remember, say your name and address for the record, please.
Barry Gamble, 16 Makefield Drive in Yardley. I had a petition that the park that Joe Jennings owned should be a public park, and the petition had about 40 names. And also the Yardley Borough had someone passed a petition there that the borough should make that a park also. I believe there's a sidewalk project that's going to end right at the entrance to the Dolington Woods there. And the reason, if two communities go together, there's a possibility of getting grant money also. And this is what the petition stated, that we should seek grant money from state and local governments. The property should be preserved because there's postcard-like trees on the property. A very beautiful area, and it has about 50 varieties of birds and small animals, snails and turtles. And it's also connected to Summers Bridge that's owned by the canal. And it would make a beautiful park. And I urge the supervisors here to consider looking for ways to purchase the property and maintain that as a public park. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
You want me to address the process?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just so everybody understands, first of all, this board is always acutely aware of the open space concept. They're looking constantly at properties and opportunities. The process, though, is one where the township is constrained in terms of how much it can spend and what's limited in the second-class township code and other applicable codes. They have to hire an appraiser to look at the property and then give an objective amount of value, both for the purchase of the land directly and or a conservation easement. So it's not saying that the board may not be interested in doing that, but everybody understand there still has to be a meeting of the minds between Mr. Jennings, who has his own view of what the property is worth, and he may be absolutely right on the mark, and or what an appraiser says it is, because once an appraiser is involved and we have to engage an appraiser, then the township is limited by whatever the appraiser says that property value is in terms of any purchase price. So it's not to say that the township might not be interested. Again, they're always looking at these things. We know that Yardley Borough has made inroads about having some discussions about that. I will just say that consideration is ongoing internally in the township to do that. So I'll just leave it at that. I think that's appropriate to say it that way.
Thank you.
I might add that the borough voted 100% to work with the township here on the project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
Do you want to leave the petition with somebody here, Mr. Gamble, or not? You have it with you, or?
I didn't bring it out.
Okay, no, that's fine. Just want to make sure. Okay.
On the sewer issue, I left the copy here previously when the money was available for the sewer. So there is a copy in the building, but I'll bring another copy tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you again, sir. Any other general public comment? Yes, absolutely. You just state your name and address for the record again, please.
Holly Bessie, 20 Knoll Drive. I think this is a question for Mr. Truelove, but I'm not sure. We have a property in our neighborhood that the owner died, has no relatives. I've worked with Mike in zoning, who came and had the township mow the lawn that was getting very high. They've done it twice. I have since found out that there were no survivors. It's gone into a state or something, trust, thank you. And my concern is the property is completely overgrown now. The trees are higher than the house. And I'm concerned that come next spring, she's been gone for 2 years now. It'll be 2.5 years. It's 2.5, it'll be 3 years in June. It's becoming an eyesore, but I'm also concerned for rodents, possible vandalism. And I'm wondering what options the township has to put pressure on getting that resolved, or to condemn it, or put it up for sale, or something that we can do. And this may not be the venue. I just don't know who to ask.
No, it's a place to start. I think the EAC's actually looked at that property.
It's on 104 Pine Lane.
Yeah, I remember seeing some, and I think there's been some internal review of that. The issue would be who is a representative of the estate to approach? And so we'd have to start there and then go through some of the same process we're talking about here. If they're interested in an outright sale or anything like that, I mean, the board would have to look at that. And just so everybody understands too, this board has taken, in conjunction with the EAC, to prioritize those potential properties in the township for the best use for open space, literally. And so I think this may be on the list. I don't know, Ms. Blundy's liaison this year, Mr. Grender's been involved. I think I recall something not too long ago with an aerial view of this. So I think it's there, but whether or not anybody's directed us to approach it, I don't know. I can't speak for the board on that, but the process will be, we have to find the representative of the estate and start there. And then, you know, if there's other options, whether it's condemnation or something like that, that's a much more involved process than that, but it certainly is a possibility theoretically going forward.
Could I request the board consider that?
So I just want to be
Do
clear.
something
Dave.
now, because come
Dave.
spring, it's gonna go.
Yes.
Dave, she's talking about a private home.
Yeah, it's a private home.
It's not a land for acquisition. It's not land for, and John's going to get into this, but this seems to me like it's more related to our
Property maintenance.
property maintenance.
Oh, no, that definitely would be property
Yeah,
maintenance.
so-
Yeah, but I was under the impression that
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chelsea thought it was something that would be available if.
No.
Dave, I'll have Mike
I'm
Kirk
sorry.
give you a memo tomorrow explaining the situation.
Fine,
and
well,
the
then
address.
I misunderstood, so I apologize for
Oh,
going in that
no
direction.
worries.
My understanding was that it was something that was possibly,
I would have corrected you, Dave.
well, otherwise, the initial issue would be property maintenance, which is
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, and which Mike Kirk is involved in, so.
Okay,
So is it currently, it's overgrown and we've mowed it.
twice.
Is it boarded up at all?
No,
Okay. Is it meaning, is it look like someone could live there if they were available? So it's vacant property.
could you live there? I think you would need to do some
Cleaning.
cleaning, but for all intents and purposes, I would assume one could live there.
So there's a process in our property maintenance code where our code enforcement officer can step through a series of prompt corrective actions with the property owner. It gets harder when the property owner
Yeah.
is.
There is no
fine.
property.
It would be the due process. There would be locating that individual or that entity, making sure process was given to them so they would have at least the knowledge to know that we're proceeding in that direction. And if we actually perfected that process and they wouldn't respond, even though we make all these efforts, there's a possibility eventually of leaning the property, and then there's a process after that. I think.
It's my understanding there are no heirs, there's nothing, so I don't know what they're doing to settle the estate.
Right. So, but part of this is to us, if we're doing performing work, we need to bill for that eventually when we get
Yeah.
through that process. So we've had these in the past. They are vexing and it can sometimes take time. But the fact that we have the property maintenance codes, I mean, we do have the ultimate power to take the property and then sell it to cover the cost of its and sort of the upkeep element
Right.
of it.
So is there something as a private citizen I should be doing or request someone within the township?
Best- Well, I mean, let the code enforcement team continue their work is the best thing to do if they're in process on this.
I don't know if he is. He's just cutting the lawn.
Yeah, I'll check. I'll
Yeah.
find out what he's doing for you and I'll have him give you a call. Let me
Okay,
know what
great.
You're doing. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, then you had me think.
Thank you for your comment. Any other public comment? General, yes, please. State your name and address for the record, please. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Lorena Stoddard. I live at 220 Meadow Drive, Yardley. I did not comment, I did not sign the petition that Harry Gamble has, but my curiosity is that the land is preserved, protected. How can you make a park out of a land with that label? And then if you do make a park out of it, do you take the title off of it and keep it a park forever? Or are you then able to sell it and relabel it back into, you know, Toll Brothers? It is a land with, like Harry said, lots of wonderful animals that live there because we have very little free land. I'd like you to take note of that in November 17, 2015, this was all discussed. It's far into the recording, but your predecessors discussed all of this and you should look at it before you make any decisions. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any other general public comment?
We have one public comment online.
Sure. You want to bring them in, please?
Bringing in William now.
If you're there, if you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, this is William Bowers at 155 Lincoln Avenue with my wife, Linda.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Good. Thank you. We're recently moved into the neighborhood. We would love the idea of, developing that space at the end of the road, Mr. Jennings' property. I think hearing a lot of the comments about Maplevale and drainage issues, I think maybe sometime I looked at a map and utilizing maybe both of that as a park might help with some of those issues. And I just wanted to give my support for that.
Thank you very much for your comment. I appreciate it. Any other public comment? Yes, sir. You're going to have to say your name and address.
Joe Jennings, 2 McKinley Avenue.
Sure.
I'm just urging maybe the council to the board to consider maybe doing a 1 or 2 step attempt at maybe finding some of this to be open space, open to the public, so I don't have to be responsible for a lot of people crossing. We have the sidewalk that's going to be finished very soon, leading up through town, and it ends at my property. I have a lot of people crossing my property now, and it's a liability. And to make at least part of this property open space and get me off the hook for a lot of those people coming by, because I have to ask people, like, why are you cutting through here? I have keep out signs all over to protect myself. And I don't feel like getting into a conversation with these people because it gets heated a little bit sometimes. And if we could avoid that and maybe do 1 step at a time, maybe start out with 3 acres and then go from there, that would be something to consider, because there's a lot more going on than you can imagine with the neighbors who want to get through there. The bridge is right there, and the property, it really deserves to be more than just private. It needs to be opened up to the public. And the other petition, besides Mr. Gamble having, had to do about 1/3 borough people, another 2/3 township people who live up Dolington and in those sections. And it doesn't seem like this issue is going to go away from me anytime soon. And I think maybe in January, we bring the issue back up again, if that's works out with you guys.
Okay. Thank you again, Mr. Jennings. I
Great, thank
appreciate that. Any other public comment? Yes, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, evening. Jim Sanders, 20 Knoll Drive. Just some clarification on 104 Pine. The county records does show it as a trust in the name of the deceased, and it has a New Jersey address. So we can forward that to you if that's helpful.
Any other general public comment? Okay, hearing none, we're moving on to agenda item number 14, discussion items. Any discussion items? Go for it. Oh, yeah, that was under business, yes. Supervisor reports. So the golf committee met 2 nights ago at the actual golf course. They had the entire staff from Spirit there for Q&A with the committee. They did a really nice job of getting everybody up to speed on what their plans were for 2023. As I previously said, the golf course saw a record year this year, record rounds. They're trying to think of some other ways of generating some revenue. They did bring in a food and service manager earlier this year, and she's been coming up with some first observing, kind of seeing how it works and how it currently operates, and trying to get a vision for what's going to be at the golf course in 2023 and going forward. So it was a very productive meeting. That's all I have. I will leave the ad hoc to Fred because I believe he attended it. So Dr. Weiss, if you want to give us any updates.
Yes, the ad hoc property committee had a meeting recently. They were speaking with the representative from Avison Young, which happens to be Jennifer Stark from the Harb, and they received 2 bidders to establish a master plan for Patterson Farm and the outbuildings, and hopefully we'll be getting a recommendation from them sometime in January. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Supervisor Grenier.
No, most of my committees, their meetings were canceled this past week or 2.
I have no report, James.
Supervisor Blondie, nothing, and Supervisor Lewis.
None of my committees have met. However, as part of the Trenton Mercer Airport Review Board, I followed up again with the commissioner of the New Jersey DEP, who has not been responsive to a couple of letters related to air pollution emanating from the Trenton Mercer Airport. So I'm going to continue to follow up with him and maybe come visit him, say hi. You know, we're LinkedIn buddies. Don't, Sean, come on, man, just answer the letter. That's all I have.
Sir. All right, so we are moving on to other business. I do believe that under other business, we did have a discussion during executive session that I think
Yes,
Mr. Kulov can go over.
Yeah, this is a 2-part item. First would be if the board is so inclined to pursuant to the amended Sunshine Act, to make a motion to add to the agenda an item directing the solicitor to make application to the PUC regarding a complaint related to secondary meter assessments. That'd be that motion. I can have a more involved, detailed motion for the substantive one if you're inclined to do that.
Do you have the docket number that was the reference?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
gave
have
it
that.
to him. Yeah,
Yep.
you should have it now.
I do have it. Let me just pull that up. It is docket number 2022-303-6634.
So moved.
I'll second it if we can do it. It'll be awesome.
Motion made by Supervisor Blondie,
We're
seconded
just
by
adding to the agenda right now.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Supervisor, seconded by Supervisor Grenier. Any discussion?
So just so people following along at home, we have already sent a letter urging that the PUC address this issue with secondary meters. But while we're hopeful, we're getting some good indication it's going to be addressed. We're going to ratchet it up a notch and ask our solicitor to get involved.
Okay, yeah, this agenda, I have to place it on the agenda, then I will have the substantive agenda item if it's the desire of the board to do that.
Now we need a new motion next.
Yeah, first you have to pass that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
vote.
Any further discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed? So per the board.
Yeah, now I try to be a little more detailed. Now, if Supervisor Blondie will slap my hand on this, I'll react appropriately. It'd be to direct the solicitor to initiate appropriate process before the Public Utility Commission, including if necessary by complaint at docket number 2022-303-6634 or other means regarding secondary meter bill assessments opposed by Aqua, and to prepare a resolution to reflect the filing of the complaint or other pleading or action, and to urge the local state legislators to initiate legislation to address the issue of billing for secondary meters that do not contribute to sanitary sewer volume.
Move.
Makes sense.
On a second, though.
We covered everything.
You're in support of the docket number, which would allow the, okay,
Yes.
okay.
Dave, when you say local,
Local state legislators, I could,
would it
if
be
you want me to
appropriate to
specify.
include, would it be appropriate to include the governor? Governor
Sure.
elect?
Yep. Local state legislators and the governor and governor-elect.
Depending on timing, yeah.
Right. Yep. Okay. Yep, I'll do that. So you can move. If you like the motion, you can move that one or you can change
I
it.
like it. I'll move it. So moved.
I seconded it.
Motion made by Supervisor Grenier, seconded by Supervisor Lewis. Any discussion?
I'll be brief. It's getting late. It really, we've heard from a lot of folks in the township that there's an issue with Aqua billing them when they have a secondary meter, and secondary meters are in place because that water is not going to the sewer system. So Aqua is essentially charging you for something that they're not treating. So we're trying to rectify that, support our residents. The folks that currently have that meter in place, we're trying to support them. And we're hearing from Aqua that they intend to do that. They intend to stop billing the people that currently have a secondary meter in place, but we haven't seen that happen yet. But it's going through a process. And at the same time, we're trying to, they had, if I understand it correctly, and please someone correct me if I misspeak here, their intent so far was not to address that with meters, new meters moving forward. So folks that get a pool or something and have a secondary meter, they weren't going to bring them into that same, under the same umbrella. So we're also going to direct our solicitor to address something to our various legislators and executive branch to see if we can't rectify that situation too, because people are paying for these meters because they want to show where the water's going and where it's not going. That results in a lot of money for a lot of places. If you've noticed this year, we have a lot of folk coming before us since COVID started, especially looking for variances and impervious surfaces because they're building pools. That's the pool market. If you're in pool installation, you've been doing great these last few years. But if you have a secondary meter, if you have a pool, you're going to spend a lot more in your sewer bill. So we're trying to, speak out on behalf of our residents because we have so many people in town that have this issue. And it's not just pools. There's irrigation, other things that people use their water for that doesn't get to the sewer system. We're trying to cover that because it is a big monetary issue for a lot of people. I missed anything?
That was most of it, if I could.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a couple things on this. One is it's 569 residents and one large municipality who also has a secondary meter. And that secondary meter handles the Lower Makefield pool. So that's why I would urge the board to support Aqua's application with the PUC for secondary meter relief for those folks. It involves just 3 municipalities. It's very narrow. Hopefully it will pass the PUC and those people will be addressed. Unfortunately, it does not solve the problem for people who decide to get a pool or irrigation system in the future. which is why the secondary part, which is how to figure that out statewide. Because I don't think we'd have the legal, I don't know that the PUC has the legal authority. I'm not a regulatory, a PUC, specialist, legal specialist. Although I've spent a lot of time with those folks. They love me. But I don't know that they would have the legal authority to do that statewide. So this is partly a function of the agreement and structure, what we had dealing with post the sewer sale, which I'll let slide. But my hope is that these folks will be addressed, and long-term, we can address the other folks in the future, but certainly frustrating. So.
Any other comments? Hearing none, call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
You have your direction, sir. Do you need anything else?
I will keep everybody apprised.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Moving on to agenda item number 17, boards and commissions. I do believe that we have one vacancy.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Ron Schmid to the Ad hoc Property Committee.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Supervisor Grenier, seconded by Supervisor Lewis. Any discussion? I did not see this one coming. Call to question. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Congratulations, Mr. Schmid, wherever you may be. We look forward to having you as an asset on the ad hoc committee. And for the final time in 2022, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yes, and after we adjourn, if we could please invite Mr. Kratzer up here for a photo, as he,
Oh, absolutely.
you can do that after adjournment, though, if you like.
You got a photo op, Mr. Kratzer. Yes. Yes, he's stoked. Yeah, I know he has to sign it, I guess.
Let him sign before we adjourn.
Fred and Suzanne, I want you guys to stay on. We'll use you as the backdrop for the photo.
In front of it.
I'll try not to cough.
So we have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Make the
Second.
motion.
I think you did.
Okay, cool.
You did?
If I didn't, I will.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye, meeting adjourned.
Happy holidays, everybody.